everyone. In this quick exercise, we're going to further our understanding of functions and learn how a function call and return works and how it affects the flow of control in a C++ program. And once you walk through these exercises, you're going to thoroughly understand the flow of control in your C++ programs in regard to function calls, and also understand how data is returned from a function and where that data is returned to. Now let's start with a simple user-defined function named square. In this example, we have a function that will square any number it receives. We're going to parse through this syntax in just a moment. Now, when this function is called, it has to be sent data of type integer and is going to return data of type integer. I can tell that because in my parameter list, I've declared a variable named number and its data type is integer. The parameter list is the area that receives the data for the function to do its job. Now I can see that the return type for this function is type integer. This means that this function is going to return data of type integer. In this example, the integer that's returned is number times number, which of course is the square of a number. In order to call this function, we use the syntax function name followed by an argument. In this example, I'm calling the function square on the argument num. I've added some information right here so that you can see that earlier in the program, I declared num equal to the value of 3. Now let's look at the overall program so we can see how all of this fits together. Now, in this example, we have a 12-line program. And we have two functions. The first function is main, which of course you all know every C++ program begins at the function main. And then we have our user-defined function named square. Now let's take a look and make sure we understand every little detail regarding these key terms and vocabulary so that we can understand the flow of control within this program. Let's make sure we can identify these key terms within the program. This way, we can all make sure we're using the same vocabulary when identifying syntax within this program. First, take a moment and make sure that you can find a function call in this program. Recall that I said earlier, in order to call our user-defined function named square, we have to use a function call. And that call must pass one argument. Take a moment and make sure that you can identify the function call in this example. All right. So the function call in this example is right here on line 10. The syntax for the function call is the function name, in this case square, followed by the argument in parentheses. In this case, we're passing whatever lives inside num to the user-defined function named square. Now, let's take a moment and make sure that everybody can identify the function definition. Did you find it? The function definition can be located right here. Lines 3 through 5 is where we've defined our function named square. Now, let's make sure that everyone can identify the parameter. Did you find the parameter? Your parameters are always located within the parentheses of the defined function. So in this example, on line 3, we can see that the parameter is integer number. Now, it's important to remember that the number of items in the parameter list will be determinant upon your function that you're defining. In this function, square, I only needed to receive one value, therefore there's only one parameter. What about the argument? Can you find the argument? Did you find it? In this example, the argument is right here. Let me clear this out so you can see it again. The argument in this example is num. Recall that the data that we pass to a function is named the argument. So hopefully you were able to easily identify these key terms so that now we can communicate and understand the flow of control and how this program actually processes. All right. As you know from previous sessions, every C++ program always starts with the main function. So recall that our main function is known as our control module because it handles the flow of control for the overall program. So when this program loads up during runtime, main is encountered first. The next step within this program that happens is memory is allocated to hold on to an integer and the value of 3 is placed in there. So in step number 2, we're looking at line number 8. Memory is allocated. That memory space is named num, and the value of 3 is placed into that memory location. Next step in the flow of control, we're at line number 9 and step 3. At this point, when the program is running, the string, the square of, is printed out to the user's monitor. So part of that output is printed out to the user's monitor. The square of is printed. The next step in item 4, the data that lives in the variable num is concatenated to that string. Now remember, concatenation is just the addition of strings. So at that point, we have printed to the user's monitor the square of, and then that 3 is printed. Next is going to be printed to the screen. So in step 5 here, when we're understanding the flow of control of this program, we're still in line 9 where the string is printed. So at this point in our program, what's been printed to the user's monitor is the square of 3 is, okay, so that's what we have right now printed to the user's monitor. And now in step 6, we're ready to call that function. So during runtime, in step 6, right here, our function call is executed. Now, this is the critical part that we need to understand in regard to flow of control. When that function call executes, the flow of control is passed up to our function that we've defined. So let's get a fresh sketch of paper here and make sure that we can follow this. Okay, so right here, so far, we have printed to the screen the square of 3 is, and now we're right here in regard to the flow of control. The function call executes, And the flow of control for this program goes up here. And you'll notice that the argument that is sent to the function square, in this case, this 3, a copy of that guy is placed inside the number parameter. Again, a parameter is just a local variable to a function, a user-defined function. But now, that variable number holds the value 3. Then our square function executes, and what this says is return 3 times 3, which of course resolves to 9. And that 9 goes right back where the function call happened from. So let me clear this out again, so we can see all of this happen clearly. I'll try and write a little bit clearer. At this point, we have written to the user's monitor the square of 3 is, and then our function call is encountered. Whatever lives inside our argument, in this case there's a 3 in there, so a copy of that information is placed into our variable number, which is our parameter. And our statement on line 4 just says return, in this case, 3 times 3, which resolves to a 9. And that 9 is written right in the same place where that function call happens. Why? Because that's the data that was returned from the function. So the flow of control in this example at this point during runtime is the function call happens, the data is passed, the defined function works with that data and returns a result. In this case, the returned result is 9, and that 9 replaces that function call as part of the output string. That's where that 9 came from. Okay, and just to be more explicit here, again, in instruction 8, number times number returns a 9, and that 9 is written as part of the output string right here. So what goes to the user's screen? In the previous steps, we came up with the square of 3 is, and at this point, in step 8, the 9 is written as part of the output stream and is pushed to the standard output device, which for most of our programs at this level will be the computer monitor. Finally, in step 9, a new line is printed, and then of course our program returns 0 to the operating system and the program ends. So in this example, we walked through the flow of control for passing arguments to user-defined functions in a C++ program. It's important to understand how this data is flowing and affecting the overall flow of control for your programs. Key points to understand about this exercise. Again, using that really important terminology that we walked through, arguments are passed with a function call to parameters which are defined within the function. And the flow of control in the program is always returned to the place of the function call. If you have any questions, please be sure and reach out and let me know how I can help you.